So perhaps we better start from the beginning. So I was down at my buddy 12's place the other day, and he was running some very cool old school analog meters, right? And we started talking about going digitally. Man, shut up, take my money, right? So I came home, ordered up 2 new enclosures, one for Ford and Reflect for the big box, Ford and Reflect for his driver amp. Okay. One is a Bird 43, right? And the other one runs on a more significant line section that requires 100 UA meter movements. Robert, thank you for the funny joke. A gift to the king. Keep up the great work, buddy. I don't know what that means, but we're going to find out. So I told him, I said, you know, in today's day and age where we live, we can get digital meters that'll run on both line sections. And he goes, oh yeah? So I started showing him what we had going on for tech. Wow, look at the new packaging with these. Wow, look at that. Wow, solid foam and everything. Man, Robert, way to take your game up to another level, bro. So I started showing him what we had going on. Oh, I see what the gift is. Dude, thank you. Wow, taking it to a whole nother place with this, dude. So I started showing him what we had going on, and literally he's like, shut up, take my money. Just take my money. So here we are today. I called my friend Robert up in Canada. Robert sent me down some meters. Sent me down quite a few meters, actually. And it's got the latest and the greatest firmware in it. There's another whole design that we're getting ready to think about doing. Well, I'd like him to think about doing anyhow. But yeah, so we're gonna put this together real quick for my friend 12. This will kind of serve as like a digital receipt as well. He called me today, had a bunch of questions about these meters, how they work, how they charge, how long the battery life lasts. It's like, dude, here's your answers. Bing, 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 bing. He's excited to get these. So I'm going to take these down personally, install these for him. There's some other stuff I've got to tighten up while I'm down there. And I say tighten up like that's in my natural vernacular, and it's not. There's a couple other things I got to finish up while I'm down there. This is just one of them. Robert, thank you, bud. He sent me a few more meters than what I needed to order. I noticed that Dwayne had a bunch of these. He had 10 of them the other day on his workbench. These digital meters, they're taking off pretty heavy. We've got a new player in the game as far as the digital meters are concerned, and they're coming along. I'm glad to see the guys finally speaking English. It has nothing to do with these. There's another meter setup that's out there that's coming down the pipe. It doesn't do all the cool kick-ass shit this does, but the display is color. It's actually very limited in what it does, like extremely limited in what it does compared to these. Way more flexible here for the time being. We'll see. We'll see where this ends up going with the guy that's producing the meters. And let's focus on this at hand. So these are our standard direct from ICA Manufacturing Fat Boy meter enclosures. They're in the raw intentionally. But we're going to make some beautiful watt meters with these enclosures. So let's get on with it. So now the front of these meters have got a little bevel to it, and they're designed to sit specifically in a Bird 43 opening, right? Well, sometimes with the enclosures that we get from Fat Boy, there is a little bit of a machinist mark that's on the inside of the enclosure. So what I like to do is take my deburring tool and just put a little bevel on the inside of everything here. Just scrape down this edge, give it a nice smooth finish. And that allows this to sit in here perfectly and flush. As the machine comes along and it punches down the opening, you'll see that the edge isn't perfectly smooth. Like there's a little bit of a rough patch that's right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. But this isn't beveled. This is perfectly square because the machine's just a punch press, right? So if we just come along and take our deburring tool, and I do it from the inside going out, trying to maintain the same angle inside going out, it doesn't screw up the square edge finish, but it puts just enough bevel on this to where this sits in there perfect. Just perfect. Just like so. This tool is about 15 or 20 bucks. You can buy them on Amazon. Buy everything on Amazon anymore. Yep, those look good. See, now I didn't get this rounded enough in my opinion. So I just turn it over and we'll scrape it from the bottom a little bit. And then we'll flip this over like so. So now we have a nice even bevel. Now this deburring tool is designed to take off the smallest of leading edges on machine surfaces. So to use it as a scraper like this isn't really the best thing, but it's perfect for what we need to do this job. If you get to a good bevel here, turn it over and you can get the good bevel on this side too. So there is an up and a down. That would be up. These 3 rows of screw holes on the bottom, they're going to be down, down. So up, up, and up. Let's go ahead and let's get these mounted into here. Okay, so I may have been known at one point or another for making digital bird meters. Or not digital, but analog, making multiple bird setups like this. I've done a couple videos on it. With the bird meters, you have a couple options. You can take the meter apart like I like to do and put strip LEDs on the inside and put the meter back together and then wire everything together. And that allows you to have a really cool effect that looks a lot like this. So that's backlit from the inside. It's a little washed out because it's so bright. But at the end of the day, you can read it in the dark. Now, another thing that I like to do is I'll get the multi-colored LEDs that allows us to do 1,000,000+ colors. And I'll drill a little hole, usually down in that corner or up in that corner, to where you can take the remote and make it change any color you want. So it allows you to change the birds to look any way you want. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is mounting the bird meters on the back side of the box, which I've also done, and then you put strip LED around this side. And so it backlights it past this crown with it recessed. It makes it look a little bit neater, it's a little bit cooler, and you can add multicolor LEDs to it. Done that on video a bunch, right? If a guy wanted to, because these require 632 mounting hardware, these meters, okay? By design, 632 mounting hardware. A guy could take, and instead of using his standard like short length screw like this, he could get himself a little bit something more significant. Let's say something like this. And then he could put spacers, or, hear me out, use a 632 nut that's free floating, screw it into the meter and pull the meter up, and then put strip LED all the way around the face of this thing with its bevel, and you'd have a nice backlit crown. And it would just glow all the way around here. It's a thing. Not doing it on this video with this particular setup, but I'm saying that it's possible. So guys that come out and they go, oh, look at what I figured out. No, it's nothing new, nothing new. The idea is out there. Also, these come with two different kinds of displays if you choose. You have the green on black, like what I like here. So black on white, or you can do white on black, so it's flip-flopped the other direction around. But as far as lighting is concerned, that would look really slick, right? Just saying, it's an idea for everybody that's into having their station all covered with LEDs. Not my thing. I put blue LEDs in that one because I like blue. And also like blood red. Imagine that, Vader and everything. It's like all the meters on the front of the amp are blue, but the amplifier is base backlit with red LED. So all the way around the bottom of my amp, I've got red LED that, just saying. So we're about done, but I want to show you a couple more steps before we parted company. So I went ahead and I got out my hole stretcher and I stretched out the holes, and we'll bring his coax in through these two holes and we'll hook them up in turn to the back of the meters. Negative to negative, which is shield, positive to center. I'd like to also remind you guys that we're talking about DC voltage, so you can use RG393, or pardon me, RG316 if you wanted to. Little tiny whip coax, that's all you need. That's my whole station's wired with that. You don't need to use RG58. That's what Bird Company used because that's all they had at the time when they initially started, and they've never looked back at the design ever again. So I went to my tin punch machine and I poked a couple holes in the tin and 4 rubber feet on both. So now we can either stack these on top of each other or stack them next to each other and they won't slide around. And they're held on with actual mounting hardware, not stickum pads like I decided to buy them at Ace Hardware, and it was an afterthought thinking this through. Okay. So then I went and I got out my orifice creation machine. Look at that, lines up perfectly. I found with these particular meters, there's just enough space. If you take and draw a line directly between these two holes and punch a hole right here, there's just enough room for us to mount up our charge ports. I'm going to show you how to mount these up here in a second. Very super simple, very easy. Anybody and everybody can do it. I want to come over here and let's take a quick look at the back of the version 2 meter. The version 2 meter allows us to run on everything from 3 volts all the way to I think 40 something volts. Let's see here. Depending on the jumper, how you move the jumper around, it'll run on anything from 3.3 volts to 24 volts. You can hook up a power whip and have these externally powered, and you never have to charge them. But I'll tell you this. I charge mine on my workbench, and they're on a lot and often and frequent. These on my workbench will stay on. I can run them, depending on where you got the brightness, you can have them running up to 550 hours straight, you know, down in the 300-hour range. These I charge once a month. And he asked me, my buddy 12, he goes, well, how do I know when they need a charge? There's a charge indicator right here on the corner of the meter that tells you, hey, 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 you need to put some juice to me. And the whole thing can be charged in about an hour and a half total. And it'll sit like this for days and days and days and days and days before it eventually goes bad. Now, I haven't charged this one since I put it in the meter. This one I charged before I left on my trip 2 months ago. So if you talk an hour or two, maybe 3 hours a day, you're literally looking at charging these meters once a month. Now, Robert, when he was designing these, I said, man, listen, let's try and let's knock all the things out of it on the universe that we possibly can. This meter here runs on a 9-volt battery, which was a monumental step forward. I'd love if he'd revisit this and put an 18650 in it. I don't know if he will or not. I don't know. I like analog and digital. That's why I'm still showing both. When it comes to tuning a tube amp, that's just a little bit easier, depending on how you have your refresh rate set. Just saying, that just a little bit easier, not much. The battery life is out of this world is what I'm getting at. And what I meant by this is this one here, if I go and I hook an external power source to it, in certain applications in a high RF environment, the RF can get into that power source and it can make the meter read all wonky. This has an independently regulated, isolated, filtered supply that's on the inside of it. So it takes whatever voltage you feed it, either it be from the internal USB-C port, which is right here, or the charge port, which isn't a charge port, it's just the power port. It's just designed to charge the power. So by moving these jumpers around in here, you see these little yellow jumpers? You can make it so it'll run on your 12-volt mobile off your key ignition, so you can just leave this on. And when you turn your key on, the meter turns on, right? Or you can use the switch on the front, or you can put the power supply on a switch. Just saying. RF, and I mean we really tested this, RF will not get into these. The only instance we've had with RF getting into the meters and making them read a little wonky was when I was working with that 3000, my last 3000, and I was making it do 29,000 peak, or 26,000 peak or whatever, 24,000 peak, whatever it was, and like 11 or 12,000 bird. The way I had the meters placed is I had the RF coming in on this side, coming in on this side, looping over itself and going right back down to the dummy load. And because it was in a circular pattern, there was just enough RF in that field to make the meter kind of twinge just a little bit. But if I took the coax and bent it down, this problem went away. These things are pretty robust. Pretty robust. So let's talk about our charge ports and how we go about mounting these up. Me personally, went out and bought a tool based off of this specific opening size. So I wanted to be able to stretch the orifice out to be able to fit through here. Now I also wanted to be able to keep this isolated from the case. This is the exact same size as a 1 5/8 Bird 43 standard element. Exactly the same size by design. These are designed to hang out the side of the element holders on that side of the bird meter, that side of the bird meter, and you see how I got one mounted right there. So in turn, how that affects us in this universe, you see how it's a little loose? Well, we're going to fix that. We're going to do it with a rubber grommet. You can go to Home Depot, or not Home Depot, but Harbor Freight, and get yourself a gasket kit. They're like $8. I keep the gasket kits around because you never know when you're going to need an exact, perfect gasket piece of material, you know, or a little piece of rubber. So I just keep them hanging out, but this is the best way I've found to mount these, short of drilling holes and putting hardware and shit. We're going to take and put an undersized O-ring in here, and when I say gasket, I meant O-ring. I apologize. We're going to put a little O-ring in this. See how this works? So now we take the O-ring, we drop in the charge port, and then we start with one corner of the charge port, and we just work our way around, give it a little twizzle, give it a little twist, another little twizzle, another little twist. And we're in. So it allows us to have a little bit of rubber cushion for the pushing that holds the thing in place. So we take our larger O-ring and we support. See how that just pops right out? Whole idea is to make this tight and so it can't move around. So it pops in place, supporting, holding in place, and we push the O-ring to the back of the charge port body, and we make sure that it's tight all the way around. So now the charge port is held in place by the rubber between the metal and the port and the rubber on the back. after you make sure that you've got your ports oriented the way you want them, your charge port oriented the way you want them to be, me personally, I use this stuff called black chemically activated celastic. Just take a little bit and I put it up here at the top. Just a little bit. And being that gravity's awesome, that celastic will sit there and run down between the rubber that's holding it in place and the backing piece of rubber. And just let it sit here for a second. And you'll see it'll wick itself all the way down and around. All the way down and around. Once that happens, I can come in here with some chemical activator and just give it a little spritz, give it a little spritz, leave it sit for 4 or 5 minutes, and they're never coming out again. Now the rubber allows us to still have a nice, tight, solid, non-twistable connection, but it also allows us to have space. What I mean by space is it gets a little tight in here. Once we put this in, you'll see how tight we just start running out of room on the inside. And then when we put the backer on it, there's no room. There's no room for any kind of gear drive or anything. I mean, you could make that work if you wanted to spend a bunch of time in it to prove me wrong, but this is a perfectly acceptable system. This is something I came up with a while ago because I did another set of these for another gentleman. But this is in there. I mean, that's in there, that's not coming out. Solid, easy to assemble, and you're done. So now all I gotta do is I gotta put the labels on the front, and then I'm gonna show you how to do the final stage assembly. So give me just a second. So now here we are at the end of this process. So all you've gotta do is fold this over, fold this down, take this, orientate it around, and plug it in until it latches. And you do the same thing on this one. Now, I don't have his coax here, and I don't need to run coax. This is going into a pre-existing station. So when I get there, all I gotta do is release the Hakos, put the coax through here, hook it up to the back of the meters, and then put the back of the meter together. And it slides together just like so. Go ahead and add the rest of the screws, and we're done. Now, while we're standing here talking, just you and me, look, my primary job is I see it, other than being a dancing monkey here on YouTube for everybody, my primary job is to repair amps, not to build watt meters. I've done this several times just to give people ideas. Like I did a set for my buddy Spaceman. He's got a total of 12 bird meters in his setup because that's what you need. And I showed how to install them in a semi, and I showed how to assemble them. There's YouTube videos out there that you're more than welcome to go watch if you're interested in learning how to do an analog setup. And this is how to do a digital setup. I don't see this as being my primary job. My secondary job is to go find the cool fringe stuff that's out there. Like, I was able to hook up with our buddy Robert at Steam and Coax and encourage him and be able to help him be able to have his product come to the masses. That's my secondary job. Primary job is to repair amps, not to do this. So the reason I say that, excuse me, the reason I say that is I want everybody to know that there's lots of people out there that do this. There's a lot of other builders and a lot of other people. A few of the people that I hooked Robert up at Steam and Coax as distributors, one was Brian Smith at Truck CB Sales. My buddy Brian is a steadfast pillar of the community in radio, right? Second largest online distributor in the world for radio equipment for all of us. He does ham stuff, he does CB stuff, he just does radio stuff. That's his job, is he just wants to sell products to people, right? My friend D-Win, over at D-Wind RF Supply. I put Robert and him together on the phone, and where they went with that is completely on them, and that's their business, and I think it's great. He's now building these same things. He does his just a little differently. This is not the definitive, this has to be done this way. This is to get everybody a reference and an idea on what they could do if you wanted to at home. It's very simple, very straightforward, very easy. It doesn't require a whole lot of special tools, a Phillips, maybe a deburring tool if you need it, a drill, and a couple other things. But this is pretty straightforward. This is our standard ICA cabinet. You can go get these from ICAmanufacturing.com. This is a standard Bird 43 cabinet. The digital meter, I don't even need to bother pulling the tabs out of these until I get them down there. I'm not going to bother programming what the slugs are that go on for the meter. Like mine, I can sit here and I can simply press this button and there it's 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, 100 watt, 5 watt, 100 watt, 1 kW. Now I'm reading a peak. Oh, now I'm back reading an average. And that's all set up for Bird 43. If I go in and I tell the thing internally that I need it to work on 100 UA meter movement, because Bird 43 is 30 UA, it'll read that. If you tell it that it's on an 1 5/8" line section that uses 30 UA meter movements like coaxial dynamics, these guys, or all of my elements are by coaxial dynamics, it does it. You don't have to buy a different meter movement set. The first time I saw a setup like this was a forward reflect and a voltmeter, and it was on a guy's truck here in town locally. And he walked around with his peacock feathers way up. And I remember I asked him one time, I said, well, how much does that set cost? And he goes, I don't know. After the elements, the line section, the meter movements and everything, oh, about $1,200, $1,300. And he wasn't lying. Here's the deal. This is the way this is working. Is this set of meters completed? The meters, the cases, everything was less than $1,000. And it's for double the amount of measurement. So the cost actually has gone down. It's cheaper than using Bird 43. And I would say it's on a severe, several orders of magnitude more accurate than what your Bird 43 meter movement is. I think that we are at the very beginning. These meters are really awesome. Robert's done an awesome job. I also see Robert innovating, and he's got a whole bunch of new ideas. You know, I got a couple new ideas I want him to play with. He's got a whole bunch of new ideas. Every single thing I've ever gone to him and asked him what he'd be able to do with these meters, he said yes. And then went out and figured out how to do it. I think that we're at the very, very, very beginning of a digital meter revolution in radio. I really do. I would say within the next 5 years, you're going to be pretty hard pressed to be able to find an analog meter anymore in the radio community that's worth its piss. There's so much inaccuracy that's in an analog meter. This is easier for us to manufacture today than that. Believe it or not, that's just the way the world works. Just saying. I only suggest people that I see will take people's money and actually deliver a product. I do not suggest any. I have friends and then I have associates, and a lot of associates I have, you know, maybe we don't see eye to eye, but they're doing good for radio, so I suggest them. D-Win is my friend, and I'm proud of what he's doing over there, and he should be proud of himself. Him and his brother have changed the face of radio as we know it by providing products. This was a hole that I saw in the market a million years ago, and what I mean by that is just the actual pre-assembly of these. Nobody really offered that. I tried playing with it. I couldn't get a lot of traction with it. Although him, on the other hand, he's filling that gap of coax and meters, and I'm proud of him for it, and I want him to keep pursuing it. So that's why I'm telling you guys here, this is not something I do as my primary job. But it's just my job to come and share things with everybody when I do come across them. So now we've finished assembly. And we're going to plug it in. Just plug in your USB-C port. It's the first time this meter's ever turned on. Now without it being plugged in, because the little plastic tabbies are in here that are isolating the battery and keeping them safe for transport and for, well, long-term storage, as soon as I unplug this, it dies. If you pull the little yellow tabs, take that out of line, and we plug in our meter, plug that in. Now we run until we turn it off. Or you can just simply plug it in through the USB-C port. It will charge until it's fully charged, and then it'll run off this power port. How do you know when it's done charging? Two ways. This meter will be fully charged. It'll show you fully charged. And this little indicator here on the side will turn purple instead of red. See how that's a very dim LED, so it doesn't cause any distraction? Good design choice on Robert's part. Let's go take a look at this charge port. Plug it in. See how it's a blue-purple? All right. Gentlemen, I got to run. I hope this helps somebody. If somebody out there takes this idea and improves upon it, I applaud them and I say, great. I have sitting in a box here a brand new bird case that was developed by Fatboy that I've got to do a video on. And it's what it's designed for is either these meters or the old school analog kit. So that meter plus the Bird 4300 400 peak kit, the stock peak kit. It's a taller box. The meters are set out differently. It's really neat. I can't wait to show you. I have to go deliver these in less than a week. So I thought I'd take the time to sit down, do a cute little video for you guys. Hopefully somebody learns from it and everybody gets to go forward. Gentlemen, thanks for spending so much time with me on this. Thanks for letting me walk you through all of this. By the way, all steaming coax meters come with this. It's a full set of replacement hardware. It's a full set of replacement buttons. What I'm talking about is these buttons. And it's got a little bit different switch pattern to it, and then it comes with an extra jumper and then an extra zip tie for securement. That comes with every single meter. So just in case you lose this little nut, or you lose this washer, or you lose this, or you lose this little jumper flies off and hits your floor and you never can find it, have faith, you have a backup. On that note, gentlemen, I say thank you. Super shout out to all the Patreon supporters that allow me to be here and do all these wonderful, lovely things. Super shout out to my buddy Robert over at steamingcoax.com. So, Patreon supporters, steamingcoax.com. Thank you, 12, for letting me put this together for you, and welcome to the land of digital. You're going to enjoy the new peak reading kit that you've got, plus your analog kit, so it'll read either way for you just by the push of a button. Shout out to my buddy Brian Smith. Shout out to my buddy D-Win. Shout out to my buddy D-Rail. Shout out to all of you guys in the radio community that allow us to still have a hobby. And remember, guys, radio is just like the lottery. You can't get your name called unless you go and play the game. I'll see you, boys. From the biggest mud duck in Idaho. Click, click.